everyone. I hope you are enjoying your electricity because we're without power, but I'm running on some backup. That's quite a strange statement to make, isn't it? Well, in South Africa, we are no stranger to power outages. We've got some of the best weather in the world. We've got great culture, great diversity, great food, but one of our biggest cons is power cuts. We have one of the highest electricity tariffs in the world, yet our power is being cut almost a third of the time sometimes. Grab a nice cup of coffee, some dirty bean water, and I hope you enjoy. First things first, in summary, priorities. I just want to discuss the priorities. Your first priority in a power outage always is oxygen, okay? Not just oxygen for the fish, but also oxygen for your filters, oxygen for the bacteria, your nitrifying bacteria, the good bacteria for your nitrification process. So oxygen is your first priority, then it's heat, temperature. These discus need to be relatively warm, but they can handle quite a bit of a temperature drop. But the temperature spike does not always end well when the power comes back on. So we're going to chat about that. And then the third thing is I'm just going to show you some of my batteries, some of my equipment, which it is a little rudimentary but works. And then we also have some solar power. So I'm just going to briefly show you my solar power as well. And these are your long-term solutions. If you have a big fish room, invest in solar power if possible, or at least just a solar geyser hot water for your fish room. Yeah, so let's get started. You guys know that the whole reason for bacteria in your system and why your tank has to cycle is to build the right colony of bacteria to process ammonia and nitrites, right? So basically what those bacteria do, they're called aerobic bacteria, and they grab oxygen molecules and they change the molecular binding from NH3, NH4 or NO2 to NO3, so they basically add an extra oxygen molecule. Now when your power is off and they've been without oxygen for quite some time, they start to reverse the process again. They create ammonia again, or nitrites, and the reason for this is because aerobic bacteria need to survive on oxygen. They're not like anaerobic bacteria that lives on low oxygen and low flow. Aerobic bacteria is mostly what grows well in discus tanks, and what Seachem Stability contains and what a lot of these products contain to cycle your tank. So aerobic bacteria start consuming those oxygen molecules. So what happens when your power is off is your filter starts to lose its oxygen, right? And then a lot of ammonia and nitrites start to build up in the tank. And then when your power comes back on, your filters pump all that gunk back into your tank. And that is often what kills your discus, not necessarily lower oxygen. Discus can handle a bit of low oxygen and a little bit of oxygen deprivation. Like in transport, when we send fish, they can handle oxygen deprivation to some extent, but it's mostly the ammonia and the nitrites being pumped back into your system that results in your fish being killed. Okay, second thing is heat. We all know discus need heat. A very slow drop in temperature is fine. It's okay for them because when rainwater in the Amazon River fills up in the rain season, the temperature drops. It's natural. Discus can handle 26, 27, 28 degrees Celsius pretty much fine. The one time in my first 2 years of discus keeping, I lost one discus to the cold, and that discus only died at 21 degrees Celsius. So discus can handle cold. The problem is when the power comes back on and your temperature shoots all the way back to 29, 30, 31 degrees Celsius that we set the heaters onto. So heaters are designed just to get the power back on, the temperature back onto what it was. So I set my heaters lower. I set them to 26, 27 degrees. So when the power comes back on, my fish don't get a temperature spike, possibly get swim bladder issues and. So that's regarding temperature. So basically I prioritize oxygen first. I'm going to show you my system here. I've got gel batteries. They're 12 volts I think. I've got quite a few of these gel batteries. They're hooked onto an inverter and then onto some multi-plugs and my electricity supply. So I also have a battery charger, and this battery charger automatically charges my batteries up again when Eskom, our main electricity supplier, comes back on. So this oxygen here, these batteries will keep my oxygen going for up to almost 2 days with a power outage. South Africa is no stranger to transformers blowing, sections of power stations burning down. Our grid, our electrical integrity grid, is really compromised at this point and hasn't been properly maintained. So we expect power outages at any time as well. It's not just load shedding where we shed power to protect the grid. Okay, then I also have the solar power. So I'll show you my solar power here. I've got polycrystalline panels and an inverter as well, and lithium-ion batteries that store the power. South Africa has lovely sunny weather, as you can see, so why not utilize that? It's just a pity that solar power is so expensive here. Solar power technology to set up here is very expensive in South Africa. Yeah, that is your long-term solution, but for those of you who can't afford solar power, I normally use, like I say, gel batteries for backup. And then the last option we can talk about is batteries for your air pumps. So let's get into that one quick. Okay, so these are one of the air pumps that run on a battery. It's an AC/DC, so it automatically goes over onto the battery. So once the power goes off, automatically the battery kicks in. And this is ideally what you want. So I'm just going to switch this on. There we go. This is high. This one's generally quite a silent one, can power up to 6 tanks. But just to show you, the AC/DC air pumps are better to go with. It's plugged out, so obviously, yeah, you keep it plugged in. But this is quite a nice pump to use in the long term.